The lines from Ironman blew my noggin. I freaking feel like I'm running on race fuel because the gaskets are just blowing. And it was pretty much by one rider. That rider had no fear. Ironically, it was Danger Boy. The finish line jump, this giant, I'm going to call it a triple because you've got a tabletop to a single. That thing was massive. I've said it on my short form videos that I would have been nervous for the wheels exploding. Yes, who knows what they're running, A60s or whatnot. You know, they might be Warp 9 wheels because those things are tough as nails, but make them real lighter. I don't know. I have no freaking idea, except for this guy is selling Yamahas through the wazoo. This took massive balls, and let's talk about the hybrid technique he was using to get over it. And we'll show another angle. That thing is boom. But that hit, look at this hit. Bam. Bam. You might as well be running Supercross suspension to have a hit like that. So the hybrid technique is not a seat bounce, and it is not a standard preload, but it's a mix of both of them. Look at how far back he is on the bike. He's essentially seat bouncing it, but it's not near as comfortable. Seat bounce you would be a little bit more straight up and down as far as with your torso. Your hips would be a little bit more rolled in like you were your hip flexors. And he is just hanging off the back of it almost like it's a start straight. And his arms are extended. He's trying to get a slingshot effect here, which is what he does. But notice, once he leaves, then he goes back neutral there. It was the slingshot. So it is a hybrid of a standard preload where you're pushing down on the foot pegs to get the suspension to pop, and a seat bounce. Because a seat bounce, you're maybe 6 inches to 12 inches further forward on the bike, and you're rolling your hips to kind of have this pop. But you normally don't really seat bounce incredibly fast jumps because you have the chance of it endoing on you. And could you imagine endoing on something like this? You would be SOL. You'd be out to lunch. You'd be gone. Dunzo. So let's watch it in real time, and you can see the hybrid technique. Boom. Just giving it everything he got. And he's been doing it consistently, lap after lap, which is really impressive. The thing that I almost would say is more impressive, because that straight up takes balls. I think other riders would have been able to jump it, especially with the new Red Bull Imagination. There's a lot of guys out there that could jump this thing, but do it in race pace with bumps in a race scenario. That is incredibly rare. But look at the scrub afterwards. Wow. That is just nuts. Dude, the kid, that is a pure Bubba scrub. Let's watch Jet do it. Jet does a pretty good job as well with his scrub. I'm just going to say that Deegan does it better. And that's not a biased because of how popular this kid is. I just think he's that talented, and he's forcing the bike to do something. Jet is doing something to just save energy, where Deegan rides the bike incredibly aggressive. He looks super fast because of how much he's moving on the motorcycle. It's attack all the freaking time. Last thing to point out about scrubbing is look at how the ruts are forming. They're not straight up and down. They're formed because everybody, all 40 guys on the track, are scrubbing. Look at that. Boom. How it's a zigzag. The zigzag is in full effect when it comes to ruts. This has to be the scariest jump of the summer, and Deegan is quadding it. It's not meant to be a quad, and he's just making different lines on the track. This is a video game to Deegan, and I don't say that lightheartedly. This is absolutely freaking insane and incredibly scary what he's doing here. You're supposed to be landing right here, then rolling, and then maybe wheeling into the face of this checkup jump to slow you down. No, Deegan is quadding into it. He's landing into a hole that has a lot of ruts, a lot of braking bumps. If something was to go wrong, it would be really, really bad. You can't say it otherwise. That is the nicest way of saying it, because it is a one-way ticket to end your career if something were to happen. Super, super sketch, but he was able to do it the majority of the time. I saw Ferrandis do something that was also spectacular, but it wasn't scary. It was a finesse. He cases it, bounces the front wheel up, and then wheelies over that area that Deegan is quadding into. We'll play it in real time so you can see it. Super sketch. Look at this. This kid is quadding into this stuff. He is going 50 miles an hour, fourth gear tapped, and landing in this kind of stuff that most people would slow down, stop, and roll to try to pick a line. He is landing at high speed into this stuff, and we saw him almost die once doing it. Wow. Well, I paused it. I paused it because it happened so fast. Look at how high he is. Boom. And I believe what he's doing is he's trying to stay so far off to the side because there's less ruts there. So he's picking a smoother line to land in, but he almost landed off the track. This kid is getting away with murder, and it's got a lot to do with his preparation and just sheer riding ability that saves him. You couldn't say that to many other guys that potentially could have done the same thing. If I would have tried to do that, it would have been the last thing I ever did. That was intense. But not to take away from Dylan's trickery, where this was just a finesse line, which I thought was nice. It wasn't nearly as spectacular as quadding this sucker, going to space, and surviving. Whew. This kid is something else. Been talking a lot about insane lines. Well, this gear is looking pretty techy. You've got this mesh here to help with airflow. You see Alpine Star chest protector underneath. Not real keen on the no shoulder protection because the AC joints and collarbones. But anyway, I digress. Stuff looks pretty dang sweet. What's also sweet is finding this stuff locally. You just have to go to Alpine Star and you go find store, and you'll end up using the Pure Moto network. And they'll be able to show you where it is currently in stock. So you could call them, you could put it on hold, you could have it shipped to them. It's pretty sweet. Pure Moto also helps EBC Brakes, Michelin, Dunlop, and many more with their indexing proprietary technology. So you might not know it, but if you're shopping at these places, you're using the puremoto.com network. Back to something not so sketchy. I still have goosebumps from thinking about what could have gone wrong. We've got Jet here just coming down the straightaway before the start, and he's just floating over some bumps. A little bounce, little wheelie over, just very, very in control and finesse. We're seeing this more and more often where guys are just floating, letting the suspension do what it's doing. And that, I thought, was really, really just sweet. He's just rolling off on the side of the track here where there's not that many bumps, and he's placing that front wheel over some of the big holes and big bumps, just so it's not doing this. It's not kicking him. He can't do that down the whole straightaway because if he could, he would. It's Jet, for crying out loud. But we'll watch it in real time because it's spectacular. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch somebody with this much bike control. Not as sexy as what Jet was doing at Southwick. It's very subtle, but it's still very important as what he's actually doing here. He's using these giant braking bumps and just kind of popping up and over. Just keeping the flow going where a lot of guys are slowing down and rolling over this. Jet is just popping over it. And we've got Sexton doing something similar before the finish line. There's a couple corners. You've got some sand pretty much right in front of all the crowd. This is a really, really rutted out area. It kind of reminds me of Freestone when they used to have it. There was a little dip down with kind of dropped off with some elevation changes here that was about 6 feet or so. But watch Sexton. He's doing the same little thing. Where most guys are braking, he is accelerating and jumping to get past some of these big bumps. And it's all about how fast you can get back on the ground. If you can get back on the ground sooner, you're going to go faster. More subtle things from these guys, but this is why even on my live show, I said that Sexton is learning from Jet. I didn't see him do this kind of stuff when he was racing Tomac. Yes, was he super fast? Was he the fastest guy on the track? Yes, but now you've got somebody that's even faster than you on the track. How do you excel yourself? Well, you got to follow what he's doing, and you have to put your ego in check and learn from the dude. I noticed Jet changing up his technique on the rollers before the massive uphill scary jump where you can't see the landing. if you notice what he was doing the bicycle motocross technique of just soaking everything up, keeping that front wheel light, soaking everything up with the body and the hips and the torso. Look at that. He misses one, barely topped. The third one, miss. Hit that one again too. But he essentially wheelied through the entire section and just kept his momentum WFO. And later I saw him double in, and it kind of bounced him weird. Watch his rear wheel. What does he do? Did you see that? That is locked up. He is brake tapping this roller section because he doesn't want that front wheel to get too high and Ryan Villapoto it and wheelie over backwards. Love you, Ryan Villapoto is a highlight reel right there. If I rode more and I was better, you'd have a bunch of highlight reels of me making mistakes. But we'll watch it in real time. And just, again, very subtle, but enough to correct what was going wrong because he made a little mistake. Bounce, front wheel got high. He's got to correct it one way. And guys, when you're riding at this level, anytime that you brake tap, especially in Supercross, if you were to do it multiple times a lap, you'd be quite a bit slower than if you were just finessing the bike, moving your body language. So this is kind of a last resort when you see guys actually use this because it's stopping your forward momentum. It's just physics. Now you've got an anchor here that's not dicing through the air. It's literally stopping. The only other time I got goosebumps was when Sexton wheelied over one of these checkup roller bumps before one of the large tabletops. Look at the riders. You've got AP who has almost perfect form. His elbow might be dropped a little bit if somebody was to say anything, but he's centered on the bike. You've got Sexton on the outside who's standing up, feet on the pegs. You see these guys standing up way more than what they used to. I'm blown away by this, but watch. We'll do it in real time and watch what he does. Ooh. Beautifully done. Just comes out of here, has the rut bounce him, starts in a wheelie, continues that wheelie, then turns it into a little scrub and gets over it. Oh, goosebumps in full effect for that. Only rider I ever saw do that, at least on the broadcast. Hey, if you've made it this far, make sure to just have your eyes closed and just keep it WFO and try to find that like button and hit that sucker. Pegged, fifth gear, tapped. And while you're at it, have a comment, subscribe as well. I know a lot of you guys are doing it, and I sincerely appreciate it. This is a growing community, and I enjoy doing this stuff for you guys as well as myself. We'll end with this nice little area that I've pretty much seen all over the internet with guys doubling into this corner after the start. And we'll watch from multiple angles here. You've got Sexton doing it cleanly. And honestly, it looks fairly easy, but there is a giant rut here that prevented a lot of the other guys doing it because that was the technical part of this area. Watch Jet as he comes in here. I actually stole this footage from Davey Coombs on his on his Instagram because he was the only guy that was able to get this close without a full-blown $30,000 camera. But watch Jet as he comes in here. He's jumping and he's setting himself up to land in the rut. And that's the difficult part right there. A lot of people could do it, but landing sideways, not straight, and in a massive rut that most people have to take time to set up for, where these guys are doing it unconsciously, that's what separates them. And then the last one, we'll watch Deegan as he comes in here and notice that he lands on the rear brake. He's doing a little bit differently. He's landing sitting down where Jet was standing up, and same thing with Sexton. He's landing sitting down on rear brake, gets off once he slams into that rut. Now that he's ready to accelerate, gets off that rear brake and starts accelerating. Well, till next time. Bra da 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 da.